sarcastic spells. This song is sponsored by the Shadow Government.
So, you just started Arcane Odyssey, but you're too much of an NPC to think for yourself and choose your magic. Well, no problem, because Uncle Shiver has got you covered with this tier list. Now this tier list isn't going to be your normal D to S tier, but because it's early into the game and the full scope of potential of each magic hasn't fully been realized, in addition to the fact that different magic complement different playstyles, this tier list will be going from extremely hard to use to brain dead. And if you don't agree, cry your eyes out, I don't care, my opinion matters more than yours. Now that said, let's begin, shall we? So starting off with the extremely hard to use tier. Now in no particular order we have wood. Now wood is a very interesting case. In my opinion, it suffers from all the same problems that it had in World of Magic. I know they tried to do a little tweaks to it in Arcane Odyssey to make it more viable, but it's just not, because it doesn't really specialize in anything, and I think that there's also better all-rounders. Now that's not to say that it's terrible, but you definitely wouldn't catch me using it. It's just so hard to use. Now that said, that brings me to Acid, and to be honest, Acid is a very solid magic, but the reason that I put it so low is because you can't really justify using it over any of the other kind of DOT, splash damage, area denial magics, which you'll see later on in the list. Now that said, I don't think that it's bad in any regard, it's just hard to use. Now that said, that actually brings me to Wind. Now Wind, me personally, I absolutely hate the playstyle of Wind. I thought that they would change it up in Arcane Odyssey from World of Magic, but that knockback, I don't see that being an advantage. It's just like really annoying. Now the damage is pretty good and it has high speed, but I feel like all of its effects are just not that easy to use in conjunction with other things. But overall, that's been extremely hard to use. None of these are terrible, but they are going to require you to have a bit of skill to pull them off. Coming in at hard to use, we have Sand. Now Sand has a particular status effect, and the reason why it's in hard to use is because that status effect, you got to do a lot of things to actually make it, worth its salt, to actually justify picking Sand as a magic. But overall, the stats and the class rates of Sand, pretty solid, not bad, but it is hard to use. Next is Crystal. Now Crystal and Earth, I'm actually going to lump them both together because they're more or less the same in this regard. These are hard hitters, relatively slow, but very good AoE, and overall just like the type of thing where you can spam, and if you create your magics in the right way, these are going to be very good. But again, you have to have that skill. You have to make your magics in a particular way because it's all pertaining to a type of playstyle in which complements its speed, its size, and the overall way that you need to use these two magics. So don't get me wrong, Crystal and Earth, not bad in any regard, but they are hard to use. And that brings me to average tier. Now these are the magics that aren't particularly easy to use, but not hard to use either. Now I'll start off with the magic that I main, being Ice. Now Ice is very solid, especially in junction with different fighting styles and weapons. You can do a lot of cool things, but you do have to prioritize a more defensive play style. You gotta counter people because you gotta get that freeze off, but it's definitely very solid. That brings me to Water. Now Water doesn't really have any specialty, but that's actually its specialty in itself because it's good for all situations, a good starter magic if you're new to games like this, and you can't really go wrong. Now there is Metal, and I absolutely love the Metal playstyle because you have to make your blast size very small and you have to have precision targets because this is a hard hitting magic, one of the most hard hitting in the game, does crazy AoE if you know how to make your magics right. But again, like, this is super awesome, but it is pretty slow, and that's why it is an average, because you're gonna have to have decent aim, you're gonna have to do a lot of prediction. Now this is an interesting one. Snow is actually used to be pretty bad, but I will say that what they did in Arcane Odyssey, I'm not sure, but it just feels really nice to play. I'm actually using Snow on my second slot, and it just feels nice. It feels a lot like Fire, how Fire was in World of Magic, in the sense that it's kind of just good for every situation, not too slow, that does decent damage, but overall a decent pick. So now we have the easy to use tier. Now actually a controversial pick putting it this high up is going to be Shadow. Now Shadow is kind of the meme magic because if you guys remember in Arcane Adventures, Shadow was crazy, one of the best magics, but ever since World of Magic and in Arcane Odyssey, it has a pretty useless effect where it just makes your screen kind of black. But honestly, I still think it's very good. It is an all-rounder, it's pretty fast, does decent damage, I like the AoE. Overall, Shadow is just like very solid and pretty easy to use. Next, we have Magma. Now Magma, very solid as well. It's another hard-hitting magic with a good AoE and DOT. So this magic overall has a lot of the things that you'd want in just a really simple, easy to use magic, and it looks pretty damn cool. And the same case for Fire. Fire is the all-rounder magic, the perfect magic if you want a bit of everything, good status effect, good speed, good damage. It is literally the all-rounder. Now about Magma, you actually do have a bit of area denial with it as well, which I also think might even bump it to the extremely easy to use tier, but overall for now I'll put it here. Now we have the extremely easy to use tier. Now another controversial pick being this high up is gonna be Glass. Now let me explain. Glass has probably one of the best status effects overall, which is Bleed, and Bleed is very versatile in conjunction with a lot of different things. Not only that, Glass is actually so fast. It is incredibly fast, in fact. That said, Glass, just the way that the effects are in game, it also has kind of like a weird effect and a kind of a weird hitbox, which makes it hard to dodge some of the moves, and I don't know if that's intentional, but either way it's an asset to it as well. Next, we have Poison. Poison, the area denial god, longest lingering status effect. You already know the deal. If you played World of Magic, it's the same thing in Arcane Odyssey. An absolute menace to fight, does decent damage, decent speed. You know, you really can't go wrong with it. Which also brings me to Ash, and I have to say, this is a rising, shining star in Arcane Odyssey. I've been seeing too many people using this, because Ash has the new Petrified effect, which is going to give you a stun as well, and its overall has crazy area denial, and let's be honest, Ash looks cool as hell. So these three solid picks all around and extremely easy to use. And here we have it, Brain Dead tier. These magics require no skill at all to use. You could have no hands, no head, and you would do well with these four magics. So let's go on here. Right, so check this out. Light magic, quick speedster magic, stupid AoE, blinds your opponent. I don't even have to elaborate. Explosion, I don't know what the hell they did to Explosion in Arcane Odyssey, but the AoE is stupid. And the hitbox of it, like the visual effect of the hitbox, doesn't even match the hitbox that it has in games for a lot of the moves. So I don't know what the hell is going on there, but Explosion is literally brain dead and possibly even broken. That said, we also have Plasma. Now Plasma, probably a controversial pick to put this high up, but for me it has the DOT of the lot of the other magics that you want, also has good AoE, and it is a quick one. It is a goddamn quick one. Plasma, solid over round, another great all-rounder. And finally, the most brain dead magic in the entire game, Lightning. If you pick Lightning, you are a complete NPC and you must suck balls at this game, because this magic has everything. It has stun, it has AoE, it has speed, it has literally any type of playstyle you want to play in the game, you can be doing it with Lightning. Now remember, in Arcane Odyssey, every single magic has its own strong suit and has its own situation and builds where it is absolutely amazing. So don't go taking this tier list as the gospel truth, oh I'm only gonna use the easy to use ones or the brain dead ones, because every single thing is good. And actually on all of my slots I'm using magics that I put low on this tier list, because the game just works out like that. Everything is in some way viable. But that said, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm out.
I can persevere, go forward on my own. There's a bright and shining pure light coming through the darkness of the night. Now I can't help crying for my life in this endless time that I live inside. Take a closer look as who you are is reflected.